Oh, you got her, dude. She's down.
Let's go.
Dude, I just shot a deer of a lifetime.
Freaking smoked him.
One with nature, and if you're a believer, one with God.
Definitely gets your heart pumping. Boy, you are in trouble.
Fall Obsession Podcast.
Well, welcome back, guys, to another Fall Obsession Podcast episode. I am Sam Thrash with Fall Obsession, and I am once again hosting you guys for this week's podcast. Appreciate you guys tuning in to another week's episode. This week, I have another first-timer on our podcast. He is one of our own staff members, field staffer in Colorado, and that is Mr. Tony Dymek. Tony, welcome to Fall Obsession Podcast.
Thanks, Sam. It's great to be here. Excited to get my feet wet in this and hopefully really jump on board and get more out to the folks on these topics.
Absolutely. Yeah, we're happy to have you on board. And for those who don't know, which you probably do have a hint after hitting play and seeing the title of the episode, but kind of our theme for this week's podcast is hunter and outdoor education. And we're kind of going to cover some topics that revolve around that here with you guys this week. But before we get into the meat of our conversation, Tony, I'm going to turn it over to you and give you the opportunity just to kind of introduce yourself, with it being your first time on our podcast, and tell folks a little bit about yourself.
Okay. Well, again, my name's Tony Dymek. I'm a Colorado native. Those are kind of becoming scarce here in Colorado, but I am a native, so very well versed in my lovely state here. My background in outdoors is, I think as soon as I could carry a stick like a gun with my dad in the fields of Nebraska, I was out there, traipsing behind him, chasing whitetails as a little guy, and it just stuck with me. He took me angling and hunting, and somehow down the road through many different career changes, I found myself at Colorado Parks and Wildlife, where I was the hunter and angler outreach and wildlife education for the Northeast region there. And so that was, really, really kind of cemented it for me with the safety of hunter education and next steps on that. Additionally to that, with Parks and Wildlife for 10 years, I currently with a fly shop here in the Denver metro area. We sell fly fishing equipment, and I also get the privilege of teaching out of there as well. So I do fly fishing 101, 201, and 301. And if that wasn't enough to keep me busy, I also work for a place here in South Denver. It's called the Backcountry Wilderness Area of Highlands Ranch. And it's a conservation easement where wildlife is protected for the greater good of wildlife and for people to come out and be educated by them. So this literally just butts up to the south part of the Denver metro area, and it's a hidden wonderland of some amazing wildlife, some trophy mule deer, some trophy elk, turkeys, you name it, they are on there. The one thing that I wish it had was a little river that ran through it so I could cast a line out there, but we take what we can get. So in a nutshell, that's Tony here in Colorado.
Well, very good. So with your background in, and I'll kind of narrow it down right now to the hunting and angling outreach that you did. So obviously with something like that and involved in hunter education, I know you mentioned to me in kind of in our pregame before that you're not an actual certified instructor, but I'm assuming you were pretty involved in those hunter ed programs and everything in Colorado. Give us a little bit more detail on what that job specifically entailed. What did you do with that?
So with the many hats that I did wear at Colorado Parks and Wildlife, I just didn't find the time to become a hunter education instructor. However, I worked very close with them. As a matter of fact, Colorado has a wonderful volunteer network of hunter education instructors, and so it allows people to get hunter education at the last minute if they really need it, because there's just so many programs. Now, COVID's kind of slowed that down a little bit, and we'll go into a little bit more detail about that. But what we found with hunter education is we would say, and we'll just throw out a number out there, say we had 1,000 students go through hunter education this year. Well, we would go back and see the history of what are those 1,000 doing now that they become hunter educated certified. And we were finding that there was a very low percentage of people actually purchasing licenses. Well, through surveys of asking people why, it was, they loved hunter education. They got very excited, but when they got their certificate card, they were kind of turned loose that they could go buy a license, but it was kind of like, well, that's great, but how do I hunt? And so at Colorado Parks and Wildlife, a team of folks came together and developed a hunter outreach program, and it was a means of a next step for people. So they could come to seminars, they could go to clinics, they could actually qualify for mentored hunts in what's called the Novice Hunter Program. Basically, it's a one-day course that would take them 4 hours in the classroom and learn everything they need to know about pheasants, how to hunt them, their habitat, equipment that they would need, places to go. And then the rest of the 8 hours of the day, the last half would be 4 hours in the field, and we would do a simulated pheasant hunt. We'd use Frisbees and dummy rounds in their shotguns, and people could go bang, bang, click, click, shooting at the different colors of Frisbees, blue being rooster, pink being hen. And so that would get people to learn how to hunt together safely. So now they had that next step. It'd give them a little bit extra. Then that would qualify for them to actually sign up with us. They would get emails from us about the instructions, and we would go take them on mentored hunts. We'd actually meet them out in eastern Colorado and take them on an all-day hunt on land that Parks and Wildlife actually set aside for graduates of that program. So
cool.
They could go on the mentored hunts with us, and they could go out and hunt on their own without running into seasoned hunters to actually pressure them on the land. So that's a small example of a big picture of the type of hunter outreach that goes on at Colorado Parks and Wildlife.
Gotcha. Well, very cool. Thank you for sharing that. So kind of diving into some of our conversation, wanting to talk kind of specifically about hunter and outdoor education and stuff, and obviously Colorado is going to be our reference for this episode because that's obviously where you're from, what you're familiar with. But I know you had some things regarding some apprentice hunter certificates, some other classes and statistics, stuff like that regarding hunter ed that you wanted to share with us today. So I'm going to turn it over to you and kind of let you open up into that, and we'll dive in.
Sure. So a couple of things. One is a little side note that I thought this would just be kind of fun for our lady hunters out there. In 2016, Colorado legislature, it was actually Senate Bill 16-068, passed this law that allowed our lady hunters to actually wear fluorescent pink garments. So just like we've always had to during rifle seasons wear orange, now fluorescent pink is acceptable. So I thought that would be kind of cool to throw that out there. I think a few other states are jumping on board with that. And just a little side note that people might want to be aware of if they're coming to Colorado, whether you're wearing pink or the hunter orange or the fluorescent orange, make sure that you've got a garment on the outside of your body. So no matter what kind of layering, you've always got that orange or pink on the outside. 500 square inches on the body, and a hat that shall be visible from all directions. So, and for the ladies, they can certainly mix pink, fluorescent pink and daylight fluorescent. So I thought that was a neat little side note to throw in there.
I had not heard that yet. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, a little change on that. So anyway, I got to hand it to Colorado. They're always coming up with ways to take down barriers to get people into hunting. And one of those things is they actually, this was a few years ago, introduced a program called the Apprentice Hunter Certificate holder. So what that means is, again, this was another thing, is why weren't people coming into hunting? And some folks were saying, that's kind of a barrier. Do I really want to invest a day doing an online course or whatever to get the certificate? And it turns out I don't like hunting. So to make it simple, Colorado waived that requirement for 1 year. These are for folks that are 10 years or older. It would be 12 years older if they were hunting a big game. The requirement for that, so they would get this hunter certificate for their apprentice free. It would be absolutely free, and it'd be printed on a license for them. So that way the wildlife officer knew this was all on the up and up. The requirement is that apprentice has to be with a mentor within voice and visual contact of that mentor at all times in the field. So voice does not mean radio. It means, you and I talking to each other, Sam. If we were, 10 feet apart, you and I could hear each other.
Right.
Visual doesn't mean binoculars. Visual means I can hear you, I can see you very close to me. So it's really cool requirements on that. The mentor requirements to be able to take these folks into the field is they have to be 18 years or older. They have to have a hunter education certificate themselves. They have to carry that proof of age and hunter education while in the field with their apprentice, and they can actually take 2 apprentices up at a time in the field. So a really cool barrier that was brought down to get people out there. And then, of course, after that 1 year was complete, that would really give the individual a chance to evaluate, did I like hunting? Was this something I want to learn? Hopefully they had a good mentor that didn't muddy the waters too much. That way the hunter education instructor won't have to clean such a dirty sponge and get them back on the right track. So
Right.
I think it's been a great program for Colorado.
Very cool. That's awesome that guys are getting the opportunity to be able to go out there and experience it. Gives them the opportunity to do it for the first time without having to fully commit to the class or anything like that. So,
yeah,
very
absolutely.
cool.
So then jumping into, okay, I did my, I either want to take hunter education now or I've done my apprentice, and this is cool. I want to do this. So again, like I said, Colorado has a literal army out there of hunter education instructors and numerous ways of doing that. And one is by a traditional class, and what that looks like. So a little different now because of the COVID situation the last 13, 14 months. Most of it has been, if not all of it, to my understanding, has been online only. And I just noticed a note. All of hunter education can be done completely online, 100%, and I'll kind of explain what that means, all the way up to a deadline of May 15th, 2021. So what that means is, going back to if we were doing a traditional class and having people come in a classroom, they would spend a minimum of 10 hours in class, split into 2 days or more. I think sometimes it's like 5 and 5 or whatever the instructor sets up. And then there's a written test, a live fire exercise. So they'd actually go to a range and shoot a 22, for accuracy and just kind of a safe handling of that gun to demonstrate to the instructor that they learned something in class. So that's all that in-person thing. So Colorado right now is allowing people to do everything online. So obviously no live fire exercise. So hopefully a good trust factor that folks are really paying attention and will still continue to be safe. I feel confident that they will be.
Yeah.
But once we get back into the being able to do the face-to-face, students can expect to maybe pay a cost up to $10. And really, that's not to make the instructors rich. That's really just to cover class materials that are handed out. So it's a pretty good deal on that, I think.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then there is an option to also do the internet course, which is what's going on right now. So everybody can do that 100%. But when we get back to some sort of normalcy, I'm sure the online class will continue. And basically, what this will look like after we get past that May 15th we talked about is they'll still do 4 to 6 hours of they'll do their online and then possibly 4 to 6 hours yet to be done with an instructor in hand, or in person. So meaning they'll do a lot of the course studies online through video and stuff. And then they will still come in after that May 15th that I talked about for the written test, live fire, and that could still be a cost of up to $10. So still, making it convenient for the hunter, or new hunter, soon to be hunter, is making it as simple as possible, which I think is great. And boy, I'm just kind of thinking about the time I took hunter education when I was a kid. I did it in middle school, and we watched a video, and it was actually John Wayne teaching us about gun safety. And it just kind of struck a little memory there. I thought that was cool. It'd be kind of fun to find that video and share that sometime with everybody to see it.
Yeah.
Anyway, so that's another option for folks. And I do want to pass along to, because I know fall obsession, a lot of my buddies, a lot of folks are just into this bow hunting, and that's great. Colorado also has a bow hunter education class. The one thing you should probably know about that is if you take the bow hunter class, which is not required in Colorado,
Okay.
but it is an excellent course, and that one actually can carry a fee, I think, up to $35. Sounds like there's some more additional materials involved in that. But if a hunter decides to go that route, that hunter education card is granted to them, and they can hunt with that as long as it's just bow hunting.
Gotcha.
Just to backtrack, if you have your firearm hunter education, that will cover you for both firearm hunting and bow hunting education, or hunting. But I think it's an excellent class, and everybody that I know that went through it just had a great time doing it. So again, things are getting a little bit more normal, and hopefully people can take advantage of some of these courses too, because I think they would just be outstanding on that.
Absolutely. No, very, very good to know. Before we get too far away from it, and I know I'm backtracking a little bit here to the apprentice hunter certificate.
Yeah.
I just had this pop in my head. I know your familiarity is with Colorado, but to your knowledge, are there any other states that are doing a program like that?
I thought I heard some others doing that, but I think really Colorado has taken the foothold on this and running with it. And, I think with any new pilot program, others will see how it goes.
Gotcha.
So that might be what's happening now. But again, I guess I will be the first to say I had some hesitations about this. Speaking of the, dirty water and having to clean that sponge when they come in, bad habits can be produced. But then, I thought, the more I thought about this, well, hunting accidents are way down. Parents and friends and relatives are great mentors for these kids and others. So why not? Let's see what happens. And actually, from what I've seen, it's worked out quite well. The funny thing is a lot of folks that were mentored, especially when it comes to spouses, husband and wife can be a great husband and wife, but it's kind of like a quarterback can be a great quarterback, but a terrible coach. That's kind of the feedback I get about some of the husbands out there. So that's why that additional education, learning from somebody else, really steps up. And you know what? You fix that, they get a new education, and they go right back to hunting with that spouse, and they have the time of their lives. I've just seen some wonderful, photos of folks with their hunts together, but it's kind of funny. Not every great quarterback makes a great coach. That's kind of how it plays out.
Yeah, that's very true. So continuing to move forward, I know you had some safety statistics and stuff that you wanted to share with us as well. Yeah,
Colorado, actually on the Colorado Parks and Wildlife website, we actually have data that's stored on there. And actually, I hadn't looked at it in a long time, but the data that it starts in 1961, and this is dating from 1961 to 1969. In the state of Colorado alone, 91 fatal incidents happened hunting. Now, looking back on the history of what went on here, Colorado actually began hunting or offering a voluntary hunter education in the 1950s. Now, again, that's voluntary.
Gotcha.
But then once these numbers started coming in, I mean, this is, one death, I think everybody will agree that one accident is one too many, but 91 is a lot over that, 9-year period. So, that's an average of 10 fatalities a year. That nobody wants to see that in one state, let alone if you put all 50 states into this. So it looks like in 1970, Colorado legislation took action, and with then I think it was Colorado Fish and Game came up with the hunter education course and passed that into law that it was a requirement in 1970. And so, with that starting to happen, getting more and more people educated out there, just kind of jumping through the years. But if we look at 1980 through 1989, the fatality incidents went down to 23. Well, that's 2.3 per year. That's better, but it's not great.
Yeah.
But then we jumped down all the way to 2010 to 2015, 6 incidents, and that's 1 per year. Well, again, it's still 1 too many as far as, all of us are concerned. But in the grand scheme of things, I think it really points to proof that hunter education, getting everybody on the same page, and really hammering that safety issue has made a huge, huge impact. I'm looking at the fatal numbers. If you look at the non-fatal incidents, the numbers are even, from 1961 to 69, 218 incidents. I mean, somebody was hurt by the means of a firearm. 218 folks were. That was 24 per year. And bring that down to 2010 to 2015. Injuries happening is 25, so 4.2. So the numbers don't lie. It's making a difference. And, whether it's true or not, I actually think you could probably get hurt easier playing ping pong than you can the way we teach hunter education. And that's, whether that's through your state agency and whether you follow that up going through a novice hunter program or you go on to somebody else. I know everybody that I've ever talked to drills home safety. If we get an animal in the end, well, that's the cherry on the top. But if we can go in being safe, behave safe in the field, and come out safe, that's a win for everybody. It's a great experience whether you get the animal or not, but came out with a positive experience on that.
Absolutely. So Tony, I want to talk a little bit also about kind of the next step beyond getting into hunting or taking your hunter education course, stuff like that. Going a little bit deeper into the educational side, but maybe from the standpoint of somebody who's wanting to contribute more, somebody who's wanting to be a mentor for these kind of hunts, or taking a apprentice hunter out there, for example, stuff like that. What all's involved in taking that next step, going a little bit farther?
Well, the next step is, hopefully you've got a great network at home or in your community. But we know that's not always the case. And, sometimes getting a different perspective other than from a family member or even a hunting, somebody that's been hunting, it's a buddy of yours and he's bringing you on board, but maybe you're a bit intimidated with that individual. Colorado Parks and Wildlife, and I am very aware of other states like Nebraska and I think Michigan and Missouri. A lot of these places are really stepping up and doing that hunter outreach. And that's really the next step. So you get your hunter certificate, your safety card, and you just don't go out the door and go, okay, great, I've got this, and I buy a license to go hunt. It's kind of intimidating. You still got a lot to learn. So Parks and Wildlife does have a hunter outreach program, and just so you guys have it, easy to get to Colorado Parks and Wildlife. It's easy to Google that, or it's cpw.state.co.us, and they've got a great menu on there. There's things to do, learn. The things to do tab would be talk about big game hunting, how to purchase your license, but the big one is learn. If you go to the learn tab on there, you will actually see the hunter education section on there, and you will also see the hunter outreach tab on there. And the hunter outreach tab, in the beginning I talked a little bit about that novice hunter program for pheasant hunting. So you get a full day course, you get a mentored hunt out of it, and you get access to quite a few acres that you as that graduate through that gets to hunt. Now, keep in mind that these steps for Colorado, these are for Colorado residents only. So I really encourage you to reach out to your states and see what programs they're offering, but I know they're out there. I really truly do know that they're out there coming for everybody. Now, if your state doesn't have it, or you just need another source, I wish when I was younger I had this network of people to reach out to, but there's great conservation organizations out there. I can't even name them all, but there's Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, there's Pheasants Forever, there's Trout Unlimited, Ducks Unlimited. You know what? If you discover you love elk hunting, there's Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation for you, and you're going to run into a whole mess of people that they just love elk and elk hunting. So great opportunities in that facet. And then I know with fall obsession, Sam, I'll let you kind of fill in everybody a little bit on this, but I know we are taking some bigger steps in doing education, and I'm looking forward to be a big part of that along with our state coordinator, and it should be fun. So Sam, if you want to maybe touch a tad a bit on that.
Well, there's going to be more to come, guys. As you know, we have been, as Fall Obsession, very cognizant and big proponents of youth hunting, educating in the outdoor community in general, and of course supporting those who are involved in conservation and stuff, because this is the future of hunting. Whether it's hunter ed and getting the next generation involved, or we're talking about conservation, hunters themselves are the people who spearhead wildlife conservation. So very important in protecting the future of hunting in the outdoors, and we at Fall Obsession are wanting to be able to do our part to contribute to that. So we're in discussions amongst ourselves and trying to figure some stuff out for how we might be able to do more and get some more mentored hunts kind of at the helm of Fall Obsession, or programs or whatever it might be. So I don't have a very formatted plan just yet to be able to actually present to you guys. This is kind of a sneak peek preview type deal, but definitely stuff to keep in mind, because it's definitely something that we're wanting to bring to the outdoor community and become more involved with in the future. So this is everything that Tony has talked about. Again, while it's been relevant specifically to him in Colorado, as he himself has said, every state has stuff like this. It might, certain programs or whatever might be called a little bit something differently or work slightly different, but it's all there. It is everywhere. And whether it's an organization like us, or even just you as an individual getting involved in something like this, it's very important. And as I've mentioned several times now, it's the future of the outdoors. So it's very important and not something to be overlooked, for sure. So yeah, well said, Sam. And folks, you're gonna, I don't think I've met too many people that didn't fall in love with the outdoors. I know as an instructor or a mentor, I've had youth on elk hunts,
And we would always have this sit down talk about what we're going to do. And I remember a group of young girls on a hunt, and they just were not keen about pulling up a gun and on a cow elk and pulling the trigger. And one of my little tips on that is, you know what, I didn't expect it to turn every person I made contact into a hunter. But what I did with those youths is actually I'll give them a 35 millimeter, disposable camera. And I told him, I said, if you don't want to shoot that elk, that's fine. Nobody's going to pressure you to do that. But do me a favor, take a picture of it. Well, pictures came, and all those little girls were the first ones to harvest that morning getting elk. And so it was really cool to see that transformation. But not all of them would continue to be a hunter, but they knew what it was all about and what those dollars went to. And that's exactly what Sam reflected on is, hunters are the conservationists of the United States, and that is super important. So, guys, if you're new to hunting or folks that are in hunting and you really want to give back, there is volunteer opportunities at the state level, numerous. I can't even count them all. And those conservation organizations just love having volunteers to help grow all of their education programs. So, and we march forward with the message I want to leave with everybody, and let's just be safe out there, and let's keep this safer than tabletop tennis.
I couldn't have said it better, man. Really appreciate you coming on this week, Tony, and sharing this stuff with us and kind of diving in a little bit more to the, like I said, the outdoor education world, and hopefully encouraging some folks out there to either get more involved themselves, or if they know a youth or somebody else that is interested in it, to get them out there as well. So
yeah, absolutely. Well, thanks for having me on, Sam. I had a great time this evening.
Absolutely. Well, before we catch you loose, man, this is your first time on our Fall Obsession podcast. So in our typical traditional sense, I got some closing questions that I'm going to hit you with real quick that we ask all of our first time guests, if you're good with that.
Yep, let's do it.
So everybody has their own experiences, their own memories that stand out in their mind. Give us one of your favorite hunting memories to date that just, when you think of your favorite hunt ever, it comes to the forefront of your brain.
Oh, it's my first bull elk. It was me and my dad out on a hunt. I think I was probably older than you would expect to finally get your first elk. I think I was 18, 19 years old, but it was just me and my dad. We were by Granby, Colorado, which isn't too far from Rocky Mountain National Park. And we were just on this wonderful hike. And then just out of nowhere, here comes this beautiful bull elk. He was a nice 5x5. He looked much bigger than that at first to me, of course. But I remember my dad talking to me, to calm me down, because he could tell my breath, my breathing was going crazy. And he calmed me down, and I raised up on that elk, and we got him knocked down. And my dad did everything right, and he always taught me all this stuff, but this one really stuck with me. He's like, you know what, you made the shot, let's stay where you made that shot. I'm gonna go down, I'll locate the elk. And I stayed so we wouldn't lose sight of where the shot took place. We successfully retrieved the animal and got it out of there, and it was just a wonderful experience. And the experience hit me so big in camp. I mean, I'm like, well, this is my first bull elk, and all I could think of is like, what if this is my only bull elk ever? Well, this is a nice 5x5. I have him mounted in the house. He's been with me for a long, long time now, and he's a great conversation piece. And that story goes on, and it's so funny when we get people come to our house that aren't those hunters, because the favorite part of it is when they ask me where I shot that moose, or, I've got family from France that came and wondered when the deer become an elk in Colorado. And so it's just been a production of great conversation. So that's my greatest memory. I'll always hold that one. And I've told my kids that story probably countless times.
Very cool. That's awesome. Very awesome to have a father-son memory, as one of your favorites. I know I have several of those myself, so it's definitely something you don't forget, that's for sure.
Yep, that's right.
All right, second question I have for you. What is a bucket list hunt that you really want to do that you haven't gotten to do yet?
Boy, I've thought of that a lot, and I think South Africa's really got me going. I just would really want to go on a hunt there, but I just mostly want to go there for the experience. A kudu would be great, and I would be one of those people. I'd have my gun in one hand and my camera in the other hand because I would just be happy with whatever I got a picture of, and hopefully it would be that kudu or whatever. But I think that's always the one that's really stuck with me is going on a South African hunt one day.
Very cool. Awesome. All right, third and final question, and then we will conclude. We've talked a lot about hunter education this evening. That is the theme of this episode. What is a piece of advice that you have? And I'm going to give us kind of a specific example here, but if somebody listening to this is interested in getting into hunting in the outdoors, but they don't necessarily have somebody close to them that hunts or that can really take them out there or expose them to it, how do they get involved?
That goes right back to, getting that hunter education and reaching out through, your state agency that has, and I know a lot of them have those programs out there. But, if it's something you're interested in and something that you can really meet some, salt of the earth people, those conservation organizations are just phenomenal. Now, I know a lot of them are virtual right now, and that's okay. Zoom conferencing, just comb your hair and put on a nice shirt, and you'll meet some great friends, and someday you all get to meet in person, and but take this experience, take this learning experience in baby steps. Never be pressured to do something you don't want. And I think one more little piece that I'll add to this is, folks, you're the experienced hunter taking a new person out. Let's kind of look at how we handle that. Maybe that new hunter can't do a 12-mile hike to pursue a ringneck pheasant. So let's work at their pace. It's not important for you to get that bird today. It's important for them to have that positive experience. So, do that with your kids. Understand when you're getting them out there, it's not about you today. It's about them and making sure that they have a great experience from start to finish, whether that's 8 hours in the field or that's 2 hours in the field. So find other ways to fill in the slot when you've made that long journey out there and the hunt turns out to be 2 hours long because the little guy is exhausted. So hopefully that answers that question with a little bonus on there, Sam.
Perfect. Absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah.
Well, Tony, again, I appreciate you coming on this week and talking with me. I enjoyed it. Guys, if you guys have not already, go hit that follow and subscribe button on this podcast wherever you are listening to your podcast. We are on all major podcast apps, as well as our website, fallobsession.com, and YouTube. Make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. Our website is our hub. That's where you can find the majority of all of our content, photos, videos, some of our mini-series that we've come out with, educational articles, wild game recipes, gear reviews. We got it all. And as we previously mentioned, we're wanting to get some more hunter education-related content on there and get more involved in stuff like that. And then also we do have several resources on our website right now for some of the upcoming draw application deadlines and stuff like that. So be sure that you guys check all that out. A lot of good resources on there. Social media, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, like I said, YouTube. Go check us out on there. And if you guys have not heard already, a little side note here, we are doing a turkey hunt competition this year. We're hosting one. We have 3 different cash prizes going out to 3 different winners, and it is possible to win more than one. So we're doing 2-man teams. Find you a hunting partner, go to fallobsession.com. All the info's on there, and you guys can register from there. Even though turkey season has already started, you can still get in on it. So we still got a month left in it. Plenty of time to go shoot a couple birds. So, Tony, thank you again, sir. I appreciate it.
Thank you. I had a great time.
Yes, sir. Me as well. All right, guys. Thank you all for listening, and we will catch you guys again next week for another Fall Obsession podcast episode. We'll see you later.